Every day is different and unique. When you're dealing with creative people, there are lots of surprises that could come your way, but stories are interesting and unique and different. What I really enjoy is just kind of getting to be there at the finish line, cheering people on toward their goal. Most of the information in the world exists behind a copyright paywall. It exists with publishers or in libraries or in scientific articles and journals, things like that. So
Yeah.
AI, in order to keep its bots from hallucinating or giving false information, or frankly, just to make them more intelligent, they want to train it on the written word.
Joining me today is Mark Gottlieb, and he is a literary agent as well as a VP at Trident Media Group. So, Mark, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. And yeah, it's good to be here.
Of course. So, let's go ahead and get started, Mark, in the most simple way. Can you please explain to me what a literary agent does?
So, a literary agent is essentially a talent agent for authors, no different than what someone out west would do, for an actor or movie director, only we do for authors.
Okay. And what made you want to get into this career path, and how did you get your start in
Well, unlike most people, I would say, who kind of stumble into book publishing as somewhat of an accidental profession, they kind of fall out of the humanities into book publishing.
it?
Although that's changing in recent years, people are getting, degrees now in publishing. That wasn't a thing, um, some years ago. But I actually work within my family business. We own and operate the company. So
Okay.
um, I grew up around authors and books and stories, all that, all my life. And so that's what sort of led to all of that.
Okay. And what parts of your job are the most exciting and the most interesting to you?
Well, uh, your every day is different and unique. You're when you're dealing with creative people, um, there are lots of surprises that could come your way, but stories are interesting and unique and different. And yeah, what I really enjoy is just kind of getting to be there at the finish line, cheering people on toward their goal. That's something really special to be almost kind of
Yeah.
precarious like that.
Yeah. And now on the flip side, what parts of your job do you think are harder, emotionally challenging, or maybe just not so fun?
I mean, every job has its challenges. I think publishing has changed a lot in recent years.
Okay.
The internet brought and technology brought a lot of changes with it. There's, you know, uh, Amazon and Kindle came about, and in my opinion, publishers didn't really rise to the occasion in the best way that they
Okay.
could. And we're now being faced with other things within publishing, like there's consolidation in the industry. There's well, obviously the economy is not great, so that affects everyone.
Of
And
course.
AI, I think, presents challenges, but I think it also presents opportunities for publishing. And so
Yeah.
it's really going to, depend on publishers and agencies and authors as to how they, again, rise to the occasion and meet
Yeah.
challenges as turning it into opportunities.
Yeah. And so now, what do you think that people might underestimate or overestimate about your job?
Underestimate or overestimate about our job? Well, probably what they would underestimate is that, you know, an author who thinks they don't need an agent to get published, it's possible you could get published without an agent, but it's
Okay.
highly, highly unlikely given that most major trade Big Five publishing houses, they won't accept submissions, unsolicited submissions, unless they come by way of an agency.
Okay.
And so most authors end up having to, work through an agent or an agency. Um, I would say what people might overestimate is, some people think, well, once I get an agent, that's it. My work is done.
Yeah.
I'll find a publisher. That's definitely a major, kind of first bridge, but then it's my job then to go out and find a publisher for an author.
Yeah.
And, it happens a lot, and we try to make good choices as to who we take on for representation. Um, but just because you have an agent doesn't simply mean, okay, now I'm going to get published. Um,
Yeah.
so it's definitely going to open a lot of doors and things like that. But it doesn't mean like I have all the power in the world, to just say, okay, you're going to get a book deal no matter what.
Yeah. And so how do you go about finding these publishers?
So we have a lot of like pre-existing relationships with publishers where
Okay.
we've worked with publishers before across different book deals. There are instances where we might reach out to new people, but
Okay.
we um, we basically craft a pitch for an author's book and a list of various editors at different publishing houses, and we go out on submission and field offers from them. It all,
Okay.
yeah, kind of goes from there.
Yeah. And so now within the role of being a literary agent, what are some niches that people can choose to go into if there are any, like specialties?
Niches, under being an agent. I mean, some agents do specialize in terms of sort of what they do. Like, you might find an agent who just does children's books, or you might find
Okay.
an agent who just does kind of women's fiction romance.
Okay.
Um, it's probably a little less so like that where I work, although some people do specialize. But I've worked with a range of different kinds of books between fiction,
Okay.
nonfiction, even children's books, graphic
Yeah.
novels.
Yeah. And so now, who are some of the biggest employers of this industry? Another way I like to ask it is what companies look for literary agents?
Uh, well, the publishers look to work with agencies and authors. Some of the biggest publishers in the industry are like Penguin Random House, Simon and Schuster,
Okay.
HarperCollins, Macmillan, Hachette. Those are really like the big five publishers, and then directly under them
Okay.
you have a grouping of larger publishers.
Okay.
But yeah, it's authors looking to work with agencies, agencies looking to work with authors, and then we try
Yeah.
and place their books there.
Okay. And so now, before we got on this call, I had to do a little bit of research regarding the average income for a literary agent. So, according to Google, it is about $62,000. So, from your experience, do you think that's accurate? What do you think about that number?
Maybe for the average agent or agency, but for where I work, I would say it's a different level of business.
Okay.
We take up the entire floor of a New York City Midtown office building. There are a lot of
Okay.
employees,
Yeah.
present thousands of authors and tens of thousands of book titles.
Okay.
So it's a much, much bigger book of business. Like the new
Yeah.
Dune movies, we put those together.
Wow.
Um, so I would say, yeah, that for the average agent, maybe. Um, but again, it's a different level of business, what we do.
So now, what are some current trends or challenges in this industry? I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but then how do you see the industry evolving in, say, 5 to 10 years?
Well, in 5 to 10 years, I mean, I mentioned things like, AI being like a really big factor within book publishing. Right
Yeah.
now, I think AI kind of gives authors and publishers the heebie-jeebies, and for good reason. I mean, things went disastrously wrong when publishers didn't handle Amazon in the right way.
Mm,
Uh, Now they have a chance to kind of set the record straight with another big tech company, in terms
mm,
of OpenAI and other
yeah.
such companies. Um, I think publishers need to view it as an opportunity and find ways to make it work for them rather than, be afraid, okay, authors won't be compensated for their work or their work could get plagiarized or misused in
Mm,
some way. Okay, so don't work with companies that will do that. Instead,
yeah.
find a bridge or find, companies that are willing to pay for the works of authors and guarantee that, their work won't be misused in any way. It's a simple equation. So yeah, I think that's the really going to be the space to watch. It's
Hmm.
one of the reasons why OpenAI is approaching publishers. For instance, Facebook's Meta tried to buy Simon and Schuster in order to train its AI on all of Simon and Schuster's titles. Uh,
Okay.
it's what's holding AI back from frankly becoming more intelligent because the way AI works is it scrapes the internet basically for information. And even though there's a lot of information on the internet, most of it is not always true. There's a lot of bad or misinformation.
Yeah,
It's like when your folks used to say you can't believe everything you see on TV. Well, you can't even believe everything you read in a Wikipedia article because
yeah,
anyone can edit or write one of those.
yeah.
So most of the information in the world exists behind a copyright paywall. It exists with publishers or in libraries or in scientific articles and journals, things like that. So
Yeah,
AI, in order to keep its bots from hallucinating or giving false information, or frankly, just to make them more intelligent, they want to train it on the written word. And the way to get to the written word is through authors and publishers. So
yeah,
it's kind of like there
yeah,
could never have been a better time to be an English major than the age of AI.
yeah. I can imagine. So now, how do you stay updated with the latest developments of your field?
Well, we have like different publications that we read, but I would say probably the foremost in the industry is a magazine called Publishers Weekly Magazine. They've been around for a very long time. Um, they are very much so, um, industry outward facing. So people who want to
Okay.
read about the publishing industry, I think that's a good place to start.
Okay. So now kind of going into your daily work and your tasks, what's your schedule like and what tasks do you spend the majority of your day doing?
Well, I mean, every day is different, but we do a range of things. So, we're always on the lookout for new clients, negotiating deals on behalf of authors, reviewing their deals, reviewing their contracts. We do a lot of books in translation, getting books translated and published overseas into other languages,
Oh,
getting our books adapted into like audiobooks or turned into movies and TV shows. So we do quite a bit of that. And then all the other back office stuff like the accounting and administrative tasks and,
wow.
reviewing publishing plans for authors, marketing plans, things like that. So it's sort of a range of things and every day
Yeah.
is a little bit different.
Yeah. And would you say that you're able to work flexible hours at this job, or do you have to be in the office from 9 to 5, 5 days a week?
Well, I would say that our hours are pretty flexible. Like
Okay.
the you could kind of do this job from anywhere in the world.
Okay.
Although publishing is like very New York centric. And I think the reason for that is that it's just sort of always been here, whereas the rest of entertainment moved out west for different reasons. There's actually an interesting history behind that.
Okay.
Publishing used to be very relationship based, and then I think the pandemic changed everything. Now people do business like this over Zoom
Yeah.
or over the phone or email, whatever. And I think also, having quiet time away from the office is really good because it's more conducive to reading and writing and editorial tasks, things like
Yeah.
that.
As part of your job, would you say that there are any busy seasons? And if so, what are they?
Uh, I mean, we are really busy all around the year, but conventional wisdom always held that the slowest months in publishing would be July and August.
Okay.
And, because people go away for the summer, they take their
Yeah.
sabbaticals. And then the other quiet time in publishing is generally like Thanksgiving until after the New Year.
Okay.
But I'm submitting books all year round throughout the
Yeah.
year. We're busy no matter what. So I haven't really found it that to be the case,
Okay.
necessarily. Um, Maybe it's a little less seasonal now than it once was.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now going into specific skills and knowledge, are certain degrees or certifications truly required to get this job?
No, because basically I mean, you're selling intellectual property. It's not like a real estate agent that needs a real estate license to understand
Okay.
like laws governing the sale of houses and apartments. Um, Most people, like I mentioned before, they never really had much of a background in publishing other than Maybe they were an English major or a history
Yeah.
major. So people, even now, I mean, some people get, like I did an undergraduate degree toward publishing, and some people even get graduate degrees toward publishing, but
Okay.
it's not really necessary to what we do.
Okay.
I think a lot of
Okay.
it is just learned through apprenticeship.
Okay. And so what would you say is the typical like career path or undergraduate degree? Is it English and history or are there others that you see?
I mean, a range of things. I mean, there was a woman who used
Okay.
to work in our office who had studied like, to be a botanist.
Wow.
So, uh,
Okay. Okay. And how would you say that people should get these experiences, like apprenticeships and those things?
well, people get internships or they start at like the ground level as like an assistant or a
Okay.
receptionist, whatever, at an agency or a publishing house. And
Okay.
that's sort of the way to begin to get your foot in the door and then see where you
Yeah.
want to move within either the publishing side of things or the, sort of the agenting side of things.
Okay. And so now, what are some natural strengths or talents that you think would make someone a good literary agent?
Um, well, I think, you need to have a very, very strong work ethic to the point where you don't really treat it like a job or a career or even a lifestyle. It becomes very much so an extension of you. And
Okay.
you kind of always have this switch flipped on in the back of your mind where maybe you're watching a TV show or an interview or reading an article and thinking, oh, that could be a book.
Okay.
That's always got to be you always got to be on in that way. And yeah, other than that, I mean, enjoy reading and storytelling and sharing that with the world, those sorts of things.
Okay. And so, as a literary agent, what do you end up thinking about all day? Like, what are some topics or subject matters that you're really interested in as a literary agent?
I mean, our agency, our bread and butter is really fiction, and so
Okay.
we prefer, if possible, to work with, or me personally anyway, commercial fiction, upmarket fiction, maybe the occasional literary
Okay.
novel. And if it's to be nonfiction, really has to be like a celebrity-driven kind of nonfiction book.
Okay.
Those are like really the areas we most look in. But then there are other areas we've worked in too and had really big
Yeah.
books, other spaces.
Okay. And so now, as part of your role, what are some tools or technologies, maybe softwares that you use a lot?
Soft tools, software, like everyone, I guess Microsoft Outlook for email, Microsoft Word.
Okay.
We use Slack to communicate through the office,
Okay.
like over a message, to chat. There's a popular software among literary agencies called Bates, which is an
Okay.
accounting software basically. Excel,
Yeah.
um, Adobe,
Okay.
DocuSign for getting contracts signed, uh, things like that. Like everyone,
Yeah.
AI I think is a great tool. There are proper ways to use it and improper ways to use it,
Of
but
course.
um, you know, probably a lot of people more than they would want to admit also probably use AI.
Hmm.
I'm willing to bet, and I think those attitudes of people will change same way as they
Yeah.
did after the earliest, days of the internet. People used to be
Yeah.
scared to death of the internet.
That's
Some
true.
people still are, probably for good reason.
True. Okay. So now we want to give our listeners a little bit of advice. So, what do you recommend that candidates that are interested in a job like yours do to set themselves apart from other candidates?
Well, I think, if you are serious about going into publishing, I mean, if you've gone and gotten a degree in publishing, great. And if not, at least something in the humanities. Maybe you've, interned somewhere like at a literary magazine or a journal, or maybe you've
Okay.
interned at an agency or a publisher, or even worked in a bookstore. That's another great experience, being around
Yeah.
books, seeing what kind of books, move really well. All those sorts of things are great. A lot of our candidates, believe it or not, oddly enough, they seem to come. There's a publishing program at Columbia University.
Okay.
It's a certificate for students after they graduate, a publishing certificate. And then Columbia hosts a job fair. And so we've hired a lot of people out of there, but then we've also hired them out of other like publishing programs throughout the
Yeah.
country. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what are some books or resources that you recommend our listeners look into?
Related to the field of publishing, I mean, Publishers Weekly magazine publishes a yearly almanac of book publishing, which has a lot of good
Okay.
information. I would say, there's this great book called Max Perkins, Editor of Genius by Scott A. Berg. It's about the life of a famous editor who he edited the
Okay.
likes of F. Scott Fitzgerald, Ernest Hemingway,
Yeah.
Tom Wolfe.
Oh,
There are lots of books written on the subject of publishing.
okay.
So yeah, I just put some feelers out there and see what people find.
Yeah. So now finally, if you could talk to your younger self when you were just starting off in your career, what would you tell
Oh gosh,
him?
lots of different things. You know, I would say to be more discerning, in terms of clients we take on for representation
Mm.
and, leave no receipts, those sorts of things, basically.
Okay.
Still pretty young, so we've got
That's true.
ways to go
Yeah.
and more to
Mm,
learn.
yeah. So now where can people reach out to you or where can they follow along with your work?
So our website, tridentmediagroup.com, has a lot of good information like about us, the company history, the awards the agency and the clients have won, like the Pulitzer Prize, National Book
Oh,
Award, name it.
wow.
You can see the client list. There's lots of #1 New York Times bestselling authors, major award-winning authors, you name it.
Wow.
And then
Yeah.
information about the agencies, the individual agents are there on the company site. And the different services, the work we do in book to film and TV, audiobooks, foreign rights for books and translation,
Wow.
all of that. So I think that's a good place to start. My page is on the site with a lot of links and contact details and things like that.
Okay. Well, Mark, thank you so much again for joining me on today's episode. Thank you for sharing your experience. It was greatly appreciated.
Oh, likewise, this is good. Thank you so much.
You just got one episode closer to learning about the world of jobs out there. To explore the rest of our career categories and find your best fit, go to jobdictionary.com to sign up for the beta users waitlist. Then subscribe here to find the next episodes coming out this week. And as always, drop us a comment, review, or message to let us know how we can better attune our episodes to your specific needs. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Threads, Pinterest, and wherever else you're on socials to go get our short, snappy preview reels that expose you to new job options every day. Because here at Job Dictionary, we believe your big aha moment can be just one scroll away. Go check it out and get out there. Cheers!